Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back. In this video, or good morning, good afternoon, good evening, sorry. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to be reading chapter 4 in How to Use the Power of Prayer, written by Joseph Murphy. And in this chapter, we're going to be talking about changing the feeling of I, ourselves, I. So let's read on to find out what exactly the author is talking about when he says changing the feeling of I. If you say I to everything you think, feel, say, or imagine, you cannot transform your emotional life. Remember, all kinds of thoughts can enter your mind. All kinds of emotions may enter your heart. If you say I to all negative thoughts, you are identifying yourself with them. You can refuse to attach I to negative emotions and thoughts. I'm really close to the camera. Let me back up a bit and readjust myself here. Okay. You naturally make it a practice to avoid muddy places as you walk along the road. Likewise, you must avoid walking down the muddy roads of your mind, where fear, resentment, hostility, and ill will lurk and move. Refuse to listen to negative remarks. Do not touch the negative moods, nor let them touch you. Practice inner separation by getting a new feeling about yourself and about who you really are. Begin to realize that the real I in you is the infinite spirit, the infinite one. Then your whole life will be transformed. The whole secret in transforming your negative emotional nature is to practice self-observation. This is something that Eckhart Tolle also talks about in The Power of Now, which is to be the watcher and the observer of your thoughts. And there's a bit of a difference with that. To observe, and specifically to observe oneself, are two different things. When you say, I observe, you mean your attention is directed inwards. A man may spend his whole lifetime studying the atoms, stars, body, and the phenomenalistic external world. This knowledge cannot bring about an interior change, the change of the heart. You must learn to differentiate, to discern, to separate the chaff from the wheat. You practice the art of self-observation when you begin to ask yourself, is this idea true? Will it bless, heal, and inspire me? Will it give me peace of mind as well as contribute to the general well-being of humanity? You are living in two worlds, the external and the internal, yet they are both one. One is visible and the other invisible, or the objective and subjective. Your external world enters through your five senses and is shared by everyone. Your internal world of thought, feeling, sensation, beliefs, and reaction is invisible and belongs to you. Ask yourself, in which world do I live? Do I live only in the world revealed to me by my five senses, or in this inner world? It is in this inner world you live all the time. This is where you feel and suffer. Suppose you are invited to a banquet. All you see, hear, taste, smell, and touch belongs to the external world. All that you think, feel, like, and dislike belongs to the inner world. You attend two banquets recorded differently, namely one the outer and one the inner. It is in your inner world of thought, feeling, and emotion that you rise and fall and sway to and fro. In order to transform yourself, you must begin to change the inner world through the purification of the emotions and the correct ordering of the mind through right thinking. If you want to grow spiritually, you must transform yourself. Transformation means the changing of one thing into another. There are many well-known transformations of matter. Sugar through a process of distillation is changed into alcohol. Radium slowly changes into lead, etc. The food you eat is transformed stage by stage into all substances necessary for your existence. Your experiences coming in as impressions must be similarly transformed. Suppose, for example, you see a person you love and admire. You receive impressions about him. Suppose, on the other hand, you meet a person you dislike. You receive impressions also. Your husband or daughter sitting on the couch as you read this is to you what you conceive him or her to be. In other words, impressions are received by your mind. If you were deaf, you would not hear their voices. You can change your impressions of people. To transform your impression is to transform yourself. To change your life, change your reactions to life. Do you find yourself reacting in stereotyped ways? If your reactions are negative, that is your life. Never permit your life to be a series of negative reactions to the impression that come to you every day. In order truly to observe yourself, you must see that regardless of what happens, your thoughts and feelings are fixed on the great truth implied by the question, how is it in God and heaven? This will lift you up and transform all your negative thoughts and emotions. You may be inclined to say that other people are to blame because of the way they talk or act, but if what they say or do makes you negative, you are inwardly disturbed. This negative state is where you live, move, and have your being. You cannot afford to be negative. This mental state depletes your vitality, robs you of enthusiasm, and makes you physically and mentally ill. Do you live in the room where you are now, or do you live in your thoughts, feelings, emotions, hopes, and despair? Is it not what you are feeling about your environment now that is real to you? When you say, "My name is John Jones," what do you mean? Is it not a fact that you are a product of your thinking, plus the customs, traditions, and the influence of those around you as you grew up? You are really the sum total of your beliefs and opinions, plus what you have derived from your education, environmental conditioning, and the countless other influences acting upon you from external world and entering through your external senses. Perhaps at this moment you are comparing yourself to others. Do you feel inferior in the presence of a person who seems to be more distinguished than you are? Suppose you are a fine pianist. When someone praises another pianist, do you feel inferior? If you have the real feeling of I, this would not be possible, for the true feeling of I is the feeling of the presence of the infinite one in you. And this is in which there are no comparisons. Ouspensky used to point out that people became upset easily because their feeling of I was derived from negative state consciousness. The feeling of I was one of his favorite expressions, and one of his ideas are incorporated in this essay. I said to men in your Bible class recently, have you observed your typical reaction to people, things that you read, and radio commentators? Have you noticed your usual stereotyped behavior? He replied, no, I have not noticed these things. He was taking himself for granted and not growing spiritually. He began to think about his reactions, then admitted that many of the articles and the commentators irritated him immensely. He had been reacting in a machine-like manner and was not disciplining himself. It makes no difference if all the writers and commentators were wrong, he alone was right. The negative emotion aroused in him is destructive. It shows lack of mental and spiritual discipline. When you say, I think this, I think that, I resent this, or I dislike that, which I is speaking? Is it not a different I speaking every moment? Each I is completely different. One I in you criticizes one moment. A few minutes later, another I speaks tenderly. Look and learn about your different I's, and know deep within yourself that certain I's will never dominate, control, or direct your thinking. Take a good look at the I's you are consorting. With what kind of people do you associate? I am referring to the people that inhabit your mind. Remember, your mind is a city. Thoughts, ideas, opinions, feelings, sensations, and beliefs all dwell there. Some of the places in your mind are slums and dangerous streets. However, Jesus, or your desire, is always walking down the streets of your mind in the form of your ideal, goal, and aim in life. One of the meanings of Jesus is your desire. For your desire, when realized, is your Savior. Your aims and objectives in life are now beckoning to you, and He alone was right. The negative emotion aroused in him is a destructive mood toward them. Give your desire your attention. In other words, take a lively interest in it. Go down the streets of love, peace, joy, and goodwill in your mind. He alone was right. The negative emotion aroused in him is destructive. You will meet wonderful people. Wait, I don't think I read that right. Let me rewind that. Go down the streets of love, peace, joy, and goodwill in your mind. In your mind, he alone was right. The negative emotion aroused in him is destructive. You will meet wonderful people on the way. You will find beautifully lighted streets and wonderful citizens on the better streets of your mind. I'm not sure I fully understand that. If you understood that, I'm happy for you, but I didn't understand that. It felt like a run-on sentence, and maybe I read it incorrectly. All right, moving on. Never permit your house, which is your mind, to be full of servants which you do not have under control. When you were young, you were taught not to be with what your mother called bad company. Now, when you begin to awaken to your inner powers, you must make it a special point that you do not go with the wrong eyes or the thoughts within you. Every time you are prone to get angry, critical, depressed, or irritable, think of God and heaven and ask yourself, how is it in God and heaven? There is the answer to becoming the new man. This now you become spiritually reborn or experience what is called the second birth. The second birth is internal discipline and spiritual understanding. The saint and the sinner are in all of us. So are the murderer and the holy man. Likewise are God and the world mind. Every man basically and fundamentally wants to be good, to express good, and to do good. This is the positive in you. If you have committed destructive acts, as, for example, if you have robbed, cheated, defrauded others, and they condemn you and they hold you in a bad light, you can rise out of the slum of your mind to that exalted place in your own consciousness where you cease to condemn yourself. Then all your accusers must still their tongues. When you cease to accuse yourself, the world will no longer accuse you. This is the power of your own consciousness. It is the God in you. It is foolish to condemn yourself. You do not have to do this. It is idle to keep company with thoughts of self-accusation. Suppose you committed acts of injustice, criminal acts, or other dastardly actions. It was not the God in you that did those things. It was not the real I or the infinite one. It was the other self, the world mind in you. This will not, of course, excuse you from your responsibility, no more than if you put your hand in the fire, you will get burned. Or if you pass a red light, you will get a ticket for a traffic violation. The other self represents the many I's in you. For instance, the many negative ideas and beliefs that there are powers outside your own consciousness. The belief that others can hurt you, or that the elements are unfriendly, plus the fears, superstitions, and ignorance of all kinds. Finally, prejudices, fears, and hates drive and goad you to do that which you would not otherwise do. The ideal way to change the feeling of I is to affix to the real I within you everything that is noble, wonderful, and godlike. Begin to affirm. I am strong, I am radiant, I am happy, I am inspired, I am illumined, I am loving, I am kind, I am harmonious. Feel these states of mind, affirm them, and believe them. Only then will you begin to truly live in the garden of God. Whatever you affix to the I am and believe, you become. The I am in you is God, and there is none other. I am, or life, awareness, pure being, existence, or the real self of you is God. It is the only cause. It is the only power making anything in the world. Honor it. Live with the feeling I am illumined all day long, and wonders will happen in your life. Feel that you are inspired from on high. Continue to live in that mental atmosphere. Then you will draw out the wisdom, truth, and beauty from the deeper mind, and your whole world will be transformed by your inner contemplation of God's truths. As you continue to change the feeling of I, as outlined above, You will populate and illuminate all the recesses of your mind with God's eternal verities. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. When thou passest through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned. Isaiah 43 verses 1 and 2. This is the God presence which always goes before you, whithersoever thou goest. Thou goest. Man. Your dominant mental attitude or atmosphere is going ahead of you all the time, creating the experiences you will encounter. Keep in mind that when you pray about any specific thing, it is necessary to qualify your mind with the consciousness or feeling of having or being that thing. You mentally and completely reject the arguments in your mind against it. That is prayer. Qualify your consciousness with the thing you are praying for by thinking and deliberating about it with interest. Do this quietly and regularly until a conviction is reached in your consciousness. As you do this, the problem will no longer annoy you. You will maintain your mental poise, plus the feeling of, I now feel that I am what I long to be. And as you continue to feel it, you will become it. Here is the law. I am that which I feel myself to be. Practice changing the feeling of I every day by affirming I am spirit. I think, see, feel, and live as spirit, the presence of God. The other self in you thinks, feels, and acts as the mass does. I think he's talking about the other self that uses the I in the negative way. So thinks the other part of you thinks the way that basically the collective, more of the collective thinks than doesn't think, if that makes sense. As you continue to do this, you will begin to feel that you are one with God. As the sun in the heavens redeemed the earth from darkness and gloom, so too will the realization of the presence of God in you reveal the person you always wish to be, the joyous, radiant, peaceful, prosperous, and successful person whose intellect is illumined by the light from above. God can cause the sun to shine on all everywhere. No man can take away the sunshine of God's love from you. No one can place you in the prison of fear or ignorance when you know the truth of God, which sets you free. The feeling that I am in you as God reveals to you. The feeling that I am in you is God reveals to you that there is nothing to be afraid of and that you are one with omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence. No one can steal health, peace, joy, or happiness from you. You no longer live with the many eyes of fear, doubt, and superstition. You now live in the divine presence and in the consciousness of freedom. Ask yourself, who is it that takes charge of me at every moment and speaks in his name, calling itself I? Never identify with the negatives, such as fear, prejudice, pride, arrogance, condemnation, etc. You now realize you need not go in the direction of the negative eyes. You will never again say yes to any idle negative thought. Neither will you give it the sanction and signature of yourself. Become the observer by keeping your eyes fixed on God, the real I, the infinite one within you. Feel the sense of I on the observing side and not in what you are observing. Feel that you are looking out through the eyes of God. Therefore, thou art of purer eyes than to behold evil, and canst not look on iniquity. Habakkuk 1:13. So that was, I think, one of our shorter chapters. And so that completes our chapter for today. I wasn't expecting it to be so short, but reading another one would make the video pretty long. So in the next video, we're going to read chapter 5. Why did this happen to me? Which I think is something everyone has asked at least once or twice in their lives. So I'm looking forward to reading that with you guys. And until next time, please take care of yourself. Please take care of those around you. I will see you very soon for chapter 5. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe and comment and like any of the videos that you read. If you feel so inclined, I would love to hear from you. And I will see you again very, very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.